Hello everybody and welcome back. SocietySucks just dropped a new video called ... will save your life next week. Don't know what this is about. The title doesn't really tell me much, so let's check it out.
Let's save your life today. Not long term, today. By specifically finding out what's most likely to kill you next week, so you can actually avoid it. First,
a car
let's
accident.
assume that 3 million
That's probably
people
most
watch
likely
this
to kill me
video
next
and
week.
that you're all among our typical viewers. You're between the ages of 15 and 35 and you're living in Western countries. We based this video on statistics specifically for your demographic and our own estimates.
Poland could be counted as a Western country.
Roughly correct.
Kinda.
Don't worry, we might also save your life if you're older or live somewhere else. Okay, now let's gather all 3 million of you in 40 packed football stadiums.
Okay, so I'm guessing this is going to be about statistics and what's most likely to kill you. So, what is the chance of you dying to a shark or a tornado, you know, that type of stuff?
Look around. Most of you are teens and young adults. So much potential.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, by the end of next week, 58 of you watching right now will not be alive anymore.
Huh?
3,000 of you will sadly have passed in a year. That's 1 in 1,000. Or not. Today, we will save your
Those are some pretty bad statistics.
your life by looking at the avoidable ways you might die. We'll not cover long-term things like diseases because we want to prevent your death next week. Your life consists of millions of micro-decisions, and some of you are on a path that will end soon. Can we guide you down a different path?
No.
Humans
No,
are
you can't.
incredibly bad at judging the real risks of life. Bad things happen to people.
Yeah,
all the
something
time
terrible
because
is
there are so
happening.
many of
Pull
us.
out your phone and
since
record
the
it
news
instead of running
focuses
away.
So much on freak accidents, we have a completely distorted picture of what actually poses a danger to us.
Florida
For
man
example,
attacked
the chance any of you
because
are
he's
going to
taking a
die
selfie
in
with a squirrel.
attack
Of course.
is below 0.00002%. To die in a terror attack is below
Terrorist attack,
0.0002%. There are
That-
super risky activities that are clearly
I feel like that
insanely
depends on where you
dangerous,
live.
like wingsuit flying. If all 3 million of you were to practice this sport, about 285 of you would die just next week. Then there are things
Wow.
that are pretty dangerous. If all of you rode a motorcycle, 35 of you would not survive next week.
You
If you
serious?
don't want this kind of risk in your life, well, don't do these things. It turns out what's most likely to kill
Or
you
just
next
be
week
safe
are
while
things
doing
that
it. That's
feel
also a
safe,
very
that
good
you do
option.
all the time and are routine. Things you may even be really
Just
good
don't
at.
drive recklessly,
This is what we'll prevent.
especially on a
By far the
motorcycle.
most dangerous thing you're currently doing is
Because if you drive a car and you crash, you're still pretty safe because the car will protect you somewhat. If you crash on a motorcycle, what's going to protect you? Nothing. You're just going to fly out and hit whatever.
driving. 8 of you will die in a car crash just next week. 416 of you over the next year. Mostly because most of you are not aware what driving really is. You're zooming through the world in a
What?
metal torpedo at the speed of a cheetah or faster. In an average car that weighs 1.5 tons at roughly
Well,
60
yeah.
kilometers an hour or 40 miles an hour, you have the mechanical energy of a piano dropped from the top of the Statue of Liberty. If you crash, this energy is released into your car and, more importantly, your body.
Yeah, the sudden stop
30%
is what
of
kills
deadly
you.
car accidents are caused by speeding, mostly because you overestimate yourself. But that will kill 2 of you next week. It's very straightforward. If you go fast, you have less time to react and only notice the danger when it's too
Oh,
late.
yeah. Car
A
accidents
lot
are
of you
also
watching
not
tend to go the speed
necessarily
limit
caused by
regularly,
you.
which saves
Someone
very
else could
little
cause a
time.
car accident
If
that
your
you
destination
are
is
involved
20
in.
minutes away at 100
They
kilometers
can
an
crash
hour
into
or
you.
60 miles an hour, driving 15 kilometers an hour or 10 miles an hour faster will save less than 3 minutes. But your
Pointless.
probability of a deadly crash increases by 60%. So 2 of you may survive next week if you just tone down your speeding. This alone would eliminate the most dangerous activity in your life. Isn't this wild? A close second is drinking alcohol and driving, causing 25% of deadly crashes. In the next week, this will also
I am actually surprised it's that close. I expected alcohol to be a lot lower, to be honest. I expected speed to be closer to like 40% and alcohol closer to like maybe 15.
kill 2
I didn't
of you.
realize they were actually that close
You
together.
don't even need to feel drunk, you just have to have consumed enough to slow your reaction time. Even
Yeah.
if you still feel completely in control, Chances
If your
are
reaction
high
time
that
is
you're
slower
not.
by like
Aside from
1
being
second, that could
extremely
cause a
illegal,
crash.
it's one of the most reckless and dangerous things too many people do regularly. And it's easy to avoid. Just don't do it, ever. Taking a cab after that work event next week, even if you only had 2 drinks, might save your life. Just because you were distracted while driving, one of you will die next week. Maybe because you were eating or fumbling with the radio, but let's be real, probably because you were looking at your phone. If you drive at 60 kilometers an hour or 40 miles an hour and check your phone for just a moment,
I don't
you've
understand
now
people who
crossed
look
an
at their phone
entire
while they
football
drive.
field,
That's just
completely blind. Stop doing this and you might survive next week. Lastly, we want to have an especially frank word with the 3 of you that will die because you didn't wear a seatbelt. What an incredibly stupid way to die young. Way more of you will get into a car crash and be injured for all the same reasons.
Why would you
And
not
of
wear a
course,
seatbelt?
Often the victims of crashes are not to blame at all, and many of you watching right now will end up hurting someone else. But you now know how to reduce the chances of this happening massively. Let's move on to other deadly things that you can easily avoid. 26 of you will die by falling, or more precisely by hitting the ground in the next year, which means one of you will die every 2
Seriously?
weeks. You'd think the danger of height was not as big of a deal, but it is. Going
Yeah?
up ladders, working on scaffolding or on a roof, and going hiking in nature is normal.
Something as
But
simple as
from
falling
a
off a
height of
ladder
just 2
could
meters
kill
has
you,
about the
but
same mechanical energy as a bowling ball
what is the
dropped from
chance
a
of that
7-story
happening?
building. You probably wouldn't want to be hit by it, and it only gets worse the
Wow.
higher you go. For a fall from
Well, of
5
course.
meters, the height of a large ladder, the equivalent would be the energy of a bowling ball dropped from a 19-story building. But even just falling over can easily be fatal because your head is all the way at the top of your body. Another surprisingly dangerous thing is water. One of you will
Drowning.
drown next week. Being in and around water is fun and doesn't seem to be a big deal, mainly for 3 reasons. You'll underestimate how dangerous a body of water is and be taken by strong currents or riptides. You'll overestimate your swimming abilities. You're most likely a
or
much
you'll
worse swimmer than
jump
you
in a
think.
puddle, which is
Or
actually really
also,
deep.
sadly common, you'll go into the water drunk, especially dangerous
Ah.
because you're more reckless and even more likely to be overwhelmed by a cold shock or hypothermia. Harmless situations around water turn deadly so quickly that in the US, drowning is the 2nd most common cause of death by accident for kids, after,
Wow.
you may have guessed it, car crashes. So if you're going for a swim next week, keep this in mind. Make sure that the water is safe. Assume if you're going by accident for kids, after, you may have guessed it, car crashes.
I wonder what percentage of these car crashes are from kids like running out into the road in front of a car, and how many of them are just kids who were inside the car, which someone else was driving, and then crashed.
So if you're going for a swim next week, keep this in mind. Make sure that the water is safe. Assume you are at best a mediocre swimmer and you won't die. Also, for the love of God, be careful on cruise ships. If you go overboard, you have a 60% chance of dying. Let's move on to the
What?
thing that will kill the most people watching this video.
Will they not even
This one's
try to
extremely
save you?
Sad and very delicate because sensationalist public discussion can make it worse. It's harming yourself. Statistically, about
Oh.
10 of you could die this way next week.
Wow.
There's something that you might not be aware of
That's
that
a
might
lot.
save your life. The
More
majority
than
of
car
these deaths
crashes?
happen in crisis situations, usually triggered by traumatic events and extraordinary circumstances that overwhelm people and undermine their coping strategies. Studies show that suicide rarely occurs out of the blue. There are warning signs, and often suicidal thoughts and feelings can be mastered by getting professional help, for example from a crisis intervention
I will admit,
center.
I have thought about,
Most people who survive an attempt
You
don't
know.
try again and end up being very glad that they did
but
survive. It was just way too much.
I
for them.
could never
They
do
felt
it.
Desperate, and as if
I
there
didn't
was
have the
no way
balls
out.
to do it, and I'm glad
It
I
would be
didn't.
so nice if someone watching this who's in a bad spot decides to get help. You matter. You really do.
That
And
would
the
have been me
world is
too
better with you in it.
3 years ago.
Please stay with us. If you currently feel overwhelmed by life, seeking help is not weakness, it's strength. We've put some resources for you in the video description. This also means another thing. If you have someone in your life going through a crisis, withdrawing, expressing hopelessness, or talking about this topic, even jokingly, take it seriously. Show them that they're loved and important. You personally could save a life, maybe next week already. You might never know, but worst case, you've been a true friend. Now, for the
I always
final
talk
thing,
about
and to be honest, this will not save your life
suicide
next
and
week, but maybe
that type of
this
stuff.
year.
I always
Cancer
just talk
is
about it
sadly a
jokingly.
real risk, even for
I think
your
that might
age
be a
group,
coping
and will
mechanism.
kill 5 of you next week. The most common being thyroid, breast and testicular cancer. The author of this video had cancer at the age of 32. If he'd been aware of this risk and went to regular checkups, this could have been entirely avoided. So this is also a personal, heartfelt recommendation. We collected a few resources about screenings and self-checkups in our sources for you. Check them out. At least one type of cancer is almost entirely avoidable: melanoma or skin cancer. You might be surprised how deadly this is, but as a great philosopher said, the sun is a deadly laser.
Oh, that's a good
It's burning your
reference.
skin with the energy released from trillions of tons of plasma. The solution couldn't be simpler.
History of the
Use
entire
sunscreen.
world, I guess.
It's been a while, or you've been in the water. Cool, apply it again. About 9 of you will die of melanoma in the next year, so sunscreen might save your life.
That's not an issue
Okay,
for me. I don't
let's
go
wrap up.
outside.
Just by being more aware and modifying
Not
your
enough.
behavior a little bit,
I don't stay
you
in the
personally
sun
could
when I go
survive
outside.
next week. Dozens of all of you watching right now. Hundreds of you this year. Hopefully, you'll be able to tell us stories in the next few years of situations that almost turned really bad, but didn't because you behaved differently. And if you have people in your life that do or don't do the things we talked about
I almost got hit
today,
by a car when I
please
was
send
driving
this
my
video.
bike when I was
It might
younger.
save their lives too. Life is just the best thing, and we hope to celebrate it together for as long as possible. If you needed a nudge to seize the day, this is it.
Oh,
Start
that's
doing
it. Yeah, I want to go back for a second to the point about ending yourself and depression. There's always a better way out than ending it. Like I said before, I did struggle with depression. It started around 5 years ago, stopped around 2-3 years ago. It sucked, especially going to school sucked, because every single day on the bus ride to school, I had a panic attack. Every single day. And I still, to this day, don't know why. I just did. I just felt like I couldn't breathe on the bus. That was my reality every single day for almost 2 full years. And there were many times where I did think about ending it all. I'll admit I was close to doing it. I had the knife at my wrist a few times. I never actually hurt myself. I didn't go that far. But I wasn't far away from it. I wouldn't normally talk about this, but since this video brought it up, and in case anyone watching actually struggles with that as well, just know that you can always look for help. You don't have to cross that line and do it. You can get a therapist, a psychologist, just talk to a friend or family or just anyone. Maybe it's someone online. That could work as well. Just talk to someone. Don't keep those emotions inside. Don't keep bottling things up, because that's the worst thing you could do. You need to vent to someone, because that stuff will kill you from the inside. You know, these days, about 2 years after I got out of that, I treat it as a bit of a joke. Depression and ending yourself. I kind of talk about that jokingly, normally, because I think it might be some sort of coping mechanism that my brain made up. Maybe. Yeah, just if you're struggling, try to look for help. Don't keep it to yourself, because there's always a better option. Yeah, I'm ending this video on a bit of a sad note, but I hope you enjoyed. If you did, leave a like, subscribe, comment. Maybe check out this video right here if you're interested, and I will see you in the next video.